everybody. My name is Mr. McKenna. I'm the director for ECM. We have with us Mr. Travis Zarno. We have Mr. Josh Goose, Dr. President, CEO, and anything under the sun, Dr. Katie Leonard. We have Mike and company. And we have Mr. Billy Browning. You guys, would you like to introduce yourselves for the people at home?
I got a mouthful.
Mike McIntyre, 2020 Johnson College alum for ECM and now full-time employee at Fastenal Distribution Center up in Jessup, PA.
Jeremy Werkheiser, I am the maintenance manager at Fastenal. I am also a Johnson College alum.
Did you ever figure out what year? Weren't we talking about that one
Yeah.
time? You're still foggy.
My name is Billy Browning. I graduated here in 2011, and I work for IBW, Local 81.
Travis Zarnoff, alum 2011, full-time instructor for Electrical Construction Division, Johnson College.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here. With us, we have about 4 or 5 people communicating with us via email. We have Steve Madura. We have, oh my God, I'm blanking. I apologize. We have Ed Goodfield. We have Joe Hynoski. And we also have, oh my God, I can't remember the names from the IBEW. We have the head of training, Mike Brust, and
Donnie?
No, Donnie. So we have actually 6. We have Donnie Joyce, and we also have Pat Walsh. Okay. We have a lot to talk about today. First off, I would like to make a couple announcements. So Mike Holt, I'm not sure if we know of him, but he's the Papa Mama of electricians. He's one of the biggest, brightest electricians we know, and he has also written a good portion of the code book, especially grounding and bonding. He now has a web series and a website dedicated to furthering electrical knowledge, and we're proud to say that we have every bit of his literature and DVD material available for our students to read and view in the Resource Center. Now, we are currently in talks with his team to directly import all this material directly into D2L, which is what our students utilize to do all their assignments from home. So potentially in the coming months, we can be one of the first colleges in the country to have this available to them. So very exciting, very cool. It's a great educational purpose. If you look around, we have a whole bunch of literature from both the books that we utilize in class and Mike Holt's material. If you look around, feel free. But you'll know that there's great information here. And not just in the electrical world, but how to be successful, how to own a business, how to study for a master's test. Literally any and every opportunity we can get these students, these literatures, these DVDs are gonna help with that. So that's a nice addition. Also a nice addition, MZ Electrical Construction. Me and Mr. Zarnoff have gone into business with each other starting in May. We are licensed and insured electricians in the state of Pennsylvania, and now we have the opportunity to take students with us on side jobs. So it's an amazing opportunity for our students to see some real world activities that they just could not see in the lab. So we think this is a great addition to our teaching tool bucket.
And Colin, not to interrupt, but did Barb talk to you too about possibly if you wanted to do like a live lab with the students about, we could set up an agreement to do that if that's something
Certainly.
you were interested in. So just
Certainly.
keep that in mind.
Yeah, and that's gonna apply a lot for our freshmen, I would say, so they can come in with us during the summer.
Yeah.
So we have spoken about that. Before we begin any further, Dr. K, do you have anything you'd like to say to do you have any announcements?
I can wait till, yeah.
Okay. All right, and our last announcement before we get going here, we are now Middle States accredited. I have no whoops, no applause. Let me tell you what it means.
Yay!
Let me tell you what it means. It's a great opportunity for our students and for students of other colleges to come in, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, my theory of it, but most colleges in the state are Middle States accredited. Those big 4-year schools, the Penn States, all that. So now if students go into that 4-year degree, after a year or two realize, you know what, this is not the degree for me, their credits can now far more easily transfer in. So it's gonna make our college a lot more appealing. Same if somebody would graduate our department and wants to further their education, perhaps go for an engineering degree. Those credits would also transfer far easily into that college. So it's an amazing opportunity for our students and students who are thinking about becoming students here. So it's a great information. It was hard fought. We worked for years on it, but we're very proud and very happy. We're very blessed to have this accreditation. All right. This is what we are going to be going over this PAC meeting. We're going to discuss the program objectives, appropriate for today's field, will produce graduates able to gain entry-level employment, are sufficient jobs available at this level of employment. We'll also be going over program structure and length, training is sufficient to meet program needs, and is the length of time appropriate. We'll also be going over course outlines, text, and teaching materials. Courses reflect what graduates must know in current occupational settings. We're going to review the outlines for syllabi and content, are all current practices taught, and we'll also be talking about the library or the resource center, okay? So I'm going to, in the email, the follow-up email that's going to contain this video, I'm going to send all of our syllabuses. I don't want to bore you with all that blunt information. Pardon me one second. I don't want to bore you. I went on the last PAC meeting. I spoke for about 2 hours about this. I'm going to try to condense it a little bit. So I'm just going to talk bluntly about what we teach, the theory of each class. I'm going to attach that syllabus information with you.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a state inspection class that's finishing up tonight. Send them over to my classroom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so programmable logic controllers. If you look here on the side, this is the credit load for each class. 1 credit in a lecture setting equals 1 hour. 1 credit in a lab setting equals 2 hours. Please keep that in mind. So this is going to be a 2-hour lecture in a 4-hour lab. This lab meets once per week. The lecture meets once per week. The vast majority of our lectures now are offered in person and online. PLC is one that only offers lectures online. All right. This is conducted by Mr. Rick Forens and Mr. Frank Bonner. It's taught down in AMT. Lab sizes are approximately 10 to 12 students. They go over all basic entry-level PLC. Mike, I'm sure you remember vividly.
Yeah.
But the aim is to not have experts come out of the field. A select few students will rise to the top, they'll really shine, they'll really become attached to it. But the main purpose is for students to not be experts, but to know vaguely about what we're talking about.
State inspection?
State inspection is going to be an automotive.
On the automotive?
Yep. I apologize about the scheduling conflicts. Introduction to pipe fitting. So previously, we had the BTT program, right? So when students were to first come into either electrical, HVAC, or carpentry, they would enter into the BTT program in the first semester. So they would get a 5-week crash course in all 3 of the big 3. This is a great thought, but it ran poorly. We have reworked it slightly, so now, instead of a 5-week rotation during their first semester, now these classes run concurrent. So for the entire 15 weeks, they'll have introduction to electricity for the trades. For an entire 15 weeks, they'll have introduction to pipe fitting for the trades. In their second semester, they'll have a full introduction to carpentry for the trades. So we're still continuing with the same theory of the BTT, but we're just running it a little differently. The problems that we found out were, let's say you have an ECM student, they're in the first 5-week rotation, and they love it, right? Another 10 weeks goes by, because they've now taken HVAC, they've now taken carpentry, and also another 6 weeks has gone by over Christmas break. So there's potentially a couple months that a student has not touched the tool. We have found that students in that first week or that first 5-week rotation have lost quite a bit. So we run it concurrently now, so students have more time in the tools and it's less chance for memory fade. That's going to be a 1-hour lecture, 4-hour lab. They meet once per week.
Looking for a state inspection?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go, like,
That's what I
yeah,
think.
sure.
We also have fundamentals to electricity. This is taught in the student's second semester. We have some literature right here if you guys would like to pass around. It's a very dry subject, but please understand that it's extremely useful. In this course, we discuss how electricity operates down to the atom, and when students enter into the lab portion of it, they understand ladder logic, relays, series, parallel, all the basic elements of electricity. That is taught to them in their second semester. As I said, Introduction to the Electricity for the Trades is another BTT program. That's when they head over to Simplex, which I'm not sure if you guys are aware. Simplex has been kind enough to give us a 30 by 80 foot lab area. We converted that into the sole purpose of making it a residential zone. So for Introduction for Electricity for the Trades and for residential wiring, those classes are held off campus at Simplex by Mr. Zarnoff. We're going to be going over the core in the Introduction to Electricity for the Trades. We're talking core residential. We're talking single poles, three-ways, outlets, half-hots, GFIs, basic circuits. Next, we have motors and controls. This is a big one. We converted that entire lab over there. Now we have 18 three-phase trainers for students to work on, which is something that not even the local 81 has. This is a monster class. It's going to be a 2-hour lecture, and it's going to be an 8-hour lab, 4 hours twice per week. A lot of time is required for this, and I'm sure when you guys remember learning motor control, it's a different world. It requires a lot of time, a lot of attention. Just like when you learn residential wiring for the first time, that might take a lot of time and attention. Motor control requires the same thing. We're going to be going over the bread and butter circuit, stuff that you guys are really going to be shooting for. Start, stop, forward or reverse, jogging, inching, series, or not series, but sequential circuits, timing relays, sensors, the whole nine. You know, we go through interlocking, both mechanical and electrical, every form of motor control. Residential wiring, another monster class. It's going to be a 2-hour lecture. It's going to be an 8-hour lab, 4 hours, twice per week. Mr. Zarnoff, would you like to speak about residential wiring? What you do in lab, what you do in lecture?
Residential is pretty much a 4-hour lab, and there we pretty much touch base on everything from, from branch circuits to, actually we touch base on some of the service, like electrical panel type deals too. And then they go into their second semester going into, from the top of the service mast to the bottom. That's pretty much everything outside. But they get all pretty much branch circuits. They get pretty acquainted with some of the National Electric Code for residential as well. Not into depth, that's more or less second to third semesters. But yeah, they get a good well-rounded base for electrical. The know-hows.
This is a tough one here, but it's very crucial, very necessary. Bounding, grounding, and service installation. It's going to be a 2-hour lecture. It's going to be a 2-hour lab. In the lecture, we focus on grounding and bonding. We have some literature here, if you'd like to take a look as I speak about it. In the lecture, the real focus is grounding and bonding, right? A big code change was implemented in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere in that range, 13, 14, somewhere in that range. Right after we graduated, grounding and bonding became a huge issue because they finally realized, hey, for the past 90 years, we were doing it wrong. Mike Holtz, as I mentioned before, huge player in rewriting the code. He's actually the one that changed it from grounding to grounding and bonding. So in the lecture, we focus on the theoretical aspect of it because a lot of it is dry knowledge. You just have to know what to ground, what to bond, what's your sizing, what's, what pertains to taking extra levels of precaution when line to ground is over 250 volts. It's a lot of information that you just need to know what to do when you happen upon that situation. Not necessarily, and I tell students all the time, if I had a lab that was just you connecting 2 pieces of metal for 15 weeks straight, you'd probably want to kill me by the end of it. So in the lab, we focus on service installation. which is the other side of the coin to grounding and bonding, in my opinion. When you're doing services, that's where the grounding and bonding becomes the most crucial. So students in the lecture get to focus on the grounding and bonding portion of it. In the lab, we really focus on the service installation portion of it. And to piggyback off what Mr. Zarnoff said, this is gonna be National Electrical Code Interpretation. We have a lecture just so students can be able to read our code book, which is our Bible. And to the naked eye, to the newbie, to the greenhorn, it's a very difficult book to get through. It's not traditional, it's not read like any other book, it's complicated. The wording is very precise. So we have a 1 hour lecture running for 15 weeks in their third semester just to show you how it's done, just to show you how to read the book. Commercial wiring. This is one of my favorite classes to teach. It's gonna be a 2 hour lecture, it's gonna be a 2 hour lab held once per week. This is when the students really get to learn those cool skills: conduit bending, 90s, saddles, offsets, all that jazz, working with MC, doing wire pulls, calculating fill, voltage drop, derating, ambient temperature corrections, quite literally everything. Stuff that matters to union guys a whole heck of a lot, because that's 90% of your work. So this is a great class both in lecture and lab. And to that effect, we have a brand new lab space, basically purpose built for commercial wiring. I can't wait to show you once we're done with this. We have industrial maintenance and mechanics. This is gonna be a 2 hour lecture, 2 hour lab. This is held in the student's fourth semester traditionally. This is prepping students for the fastenals. You know what I mean? Getting students ready for not just electrical work, but a variety of work: pneumatic, hydraulic, motor care, you know what I mean, balancing, chain drives, gear drives, quite literally everything. So once again, we're not shooting for expert level knowledge, but we want to be students to be aware of what they're about to walk into. Maybe they didn't work on that piece of equipment, but they heard about it, they know its theory, they know how it works down to a core level, so they can kind of work on it from there. Now, these three are another one of the two sides of the same coin type deal. We have an internship, which is 4 credits. Students are heavily encouraged, they're not required, but they're heavily encouraged during the 4th semester to take an internship. They have to acquire 200 hours in the electrical field, and that's designed to really, to use all the skills they learn here to do with what they wanted to do. You know what I mean? Whether you wanted to go for the Fastenal type route, whether you wanted to go with a residential guy, whether you want to get linked up with a commercial wire, that's really the time that you're supposed to grow, kind of get your foot in the door with the company. We have great retention rates. About 80% of our students get internships, and of those 80%, about 80% of the employers hold those guys. So we have a lot of people who are lined up full-time work right out of college. So it's an amazing thing. And if you don't take the internship, we also have applied practices, which is the lab kind of takes place of it. It's going to be a 2 hour lecture, and it's going to be a 6 hour lab, usually held on Fridays in their 4th semester. But that kind of fills in the gaps. We kind of go over material like, something we didn't get to cover during the 2 years. We'll go over arc flash and arc blast. We'll go on a couple field trips. We'll tackle some big projects, the tiny homes projects that will be happening next semester. It's going to be a big portion of it. But they are two sides of the same coin. If you don't take the internship, you take the applied practice, and they both yield you 4 credits. Beyond that, we have all of our gen eds. Does anybody have any questions about our core classes? The literature, what we do, how we teach it, how is it effective? Any questions at all? Do we feel that, that just based on what I was speaking about, do we think this is what students need to succeed? This is current, this is what the industry demands, this is what the industry needs, this is what students need to be successful. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
We got one from Billy?
Yeah,
I agree. So based on what we just talked about, do we feel that this is appropriate for today's field? Is there anything that we'd like to add, like to see? Any classes that aren't being taught that could be valuable, could make our students a bit more employable?
Do we still have our OSHA 10 class?
We do, instruction safety.
Okay.
Yep, it's
Yeah,
gonna be an elective.
that was definitely big, and another thing that we could work into it as well is maybe not have powered systems up, but knowing how to lock out, tag out properly in terms of having a lock for your breaker or something of that sort in residential.
In residential, okay.
Yeah, and even for me, when I'm at Fastenal now, there's some lockout tagout tools that I've never used that they could be poorly made, things of that sort, and to keep your eye on that because you're already working in a dangerous situation if you have to lock out a system.
Absolutely.
So you want to make sure you know how to use the tools to properly lock that system out without having to worry about, you know, personal injury to yourself or a worker. You know, definitely.
Anything else?
No, I agree with the lockout for sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking along the lines of like low voltage controls and like networking and sort of stuff in that general area, because I mean, that would apply to residential if they want network firewalls run.
Yeah.
But as far as like in the field, we do it a lot.
So we do cover low voltage controls. That's gonna be covered in both the fundamentals of electricity and in motors and controls.
Okay.
We're gonna have our control work primarily off of 120, but we will have situations that higher control voltage is 24, 12. Especially in fundamentals of electricity, that's where they learn all that the first time. They're usually using 12, 16 volts. AC,
Right.
no DC.
How about the networking portion of it, like Ethernet?
I don't get into much of that. That's, we've been talking about that for quite some time, and that is, we all
I
know
mean,
it's coming.
even if it's something as simple as putting the ends on a wire.
Yeah,
Well,
crimping the ends
this,
on it, might help.
this program this year is kind of run a little bit longer, which gives us actually more time to get into stuff like that. Before, we didn't have that luxury, because it was only 5-week rotation
you're
for
referring to
everybody.
introductions to electricity for the trades.
I'm talking about BTT, like first.
Introduction to
yeah.
electricity.
Yes, introduction, yes. So could they possibly have a week of just doing that? Absolutely. We have a good amount of time to do that. And you're right, I was thinking about doing something like that, either in this semester or their second semester of residential. So you're absolutely right.
Anything else? That was great.
No, that's all that really comes to mind right now. As we go along, I might think of other stuff.
And I know this is a funny question to ask. We'll probably get a good trouble. Are there enough jobs available for our students to? Yes, I think we all know the answer to that. Here's a tough one. Is the training sufficient to meet program goals? Do we have enough time? Both in lecture and lab? Do you feel that anything I spoke about, you're not happy with the amount of time students spend in lecture versus lab? Anything to be expanded, anything to be reduced? Keep in mind, the only 4-hour lab is gonna be for PLC. 8-hour labs are for residential wiring and motors and controls.
I was gonna say, how do the students feel? Like,
My students rarely complain. I mean, Travis groomed them to be, I gotta say, this is the best, and this is to not tote or brag, but this is definitely some of the best students to ever walk through here, the senior class. Mr. Zarnoff did an excellent job grooming them, and Mike is no disservice to you. You're a great class. But I cannot believe the quality of students that we're getting, the hunger that these students have, every single one of them. It's actually beautiful to see. So in that regard, our students come in, if the lab starts at 10 o'clock, they're there at 9:55, ready to go.
but are they ever saying like they're not getting enough of hands-on? Because that's sometimes like,
Something
what-
gets relayed, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Not that's been relayed to me.
Okay, that's good.
Mike, you were a previous grad, what are your thoughts?
Here's the way
If you can put that student cap back.
You're not too far removed yet.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say, in terms of not having enough time for labs, it's not realistic to the amount of time you would need or that you would want. If you're really truly ambitious about this field, you'll do a 16-hour lab. That's what you want, but it's just not ideal.
So, but for entry level, like you feel
For me,
it's at least.
Enough, like I've told Colin, and I was very honest with my interview for my internship when I first started with Fastenal. picked up a hammer when I was 18 years old, and then my first time looking at, you know, a panel box was when I was here. And the amount of knowledge that I've accumulated in the past 2 years being with Johnson College and Fastenal, I mean, it's a world of difference. It really, truly is. So, unless you can put more hours in a day, then, you know, give them more time,
You
but.
might be able to figure it out.
Anything is possible.
48 hours, here we go. But definitely, and then it gets to, with those 8-hour labs, even you know, when you get to your 4-hour part and they're like, all right, go grab a drink, you're definitely like, okay, it's good to step back and have that break, because you go in and, you know, you're struggling with the motor control, you know, your wiring diagram, having a bad day, and you get to step away from that for a second. And I'll tell you, when I'm having my Pepsi out in the hallway and I'm like thinking, what am I doing wrong? Oh, yeah, and then you're right back in there. So it worked out well for me with my scheduling too.
Yeah.
Plus with the seniors, it gave me enough time to get my internship and build relationships with where I'm at right now with Fastenal. So I had time to go out there and I was learning, and it was any amount of hours that I really needed. And then I had my hours here. So yeah, I don't have any complaints for the a lot of time that we have for our labs.
How about yourselves? Any thoughts? I know Mike is a very testimonial man.
Yeah.
But do we have anything to challenge that? Do we think that anything's not proper?
I don't think so.
I mean, I feel pretty confident so much that I teach it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we have to look for you guys, so, you know, I might have a different perspective than you. You know what I mean? So if you feel that there's anything not in sufficient time, too little, too long,
Yeah,
please feel free to reach out.
it's hard to really get a good judge on that, because if you have to cover 100 topics because you don't know what kind of job you're gonna get, you're given a very overall picture of this is all the things that you could be doing,
Yeah,
but realistically, you might only be doing 10 of these all the time,
yeah,
because there might be some off, like you went over it, and it might spark something down the line where it's like, I remember something about that in school, so they'll go check their notes or call you or whatever, and
and
they
Mike,
get an answer.
Mike, you might remember this, but I have a crystal ball speech. Nobody has a crystal ball as much as
Right,
you
so
would like to
you're
have
kind of
it.
giving a good overall
For each and every
expectation
student.
of where they're gonna be, yeah. So I mean, you're kind of touching on pretty much everything
Yep.
that's needed. And as an employer, you have a certain expectation that this person doesn't have a lot of experience that went over a lot of the stuff in school. So like when Mike first came on, I would ask him like, what specifically did you learn? You know, like what are you good at? What are you not so good at? He's like, well, I'm good at electrical, but I'm not so good at this. I'm like, all right, well, we'll work with that. You know, so as long as they're confident in knowing what they know and what they don't, that's I mean, you can't ask for more than that.
Appreciate that. And kind of to piggyback on what you just said, do these courses reflect what you're gonna see in that occupational center? Do you agree? Also, I will, like I said, I don't want to carry on for 2 hours here going over each and every syllabus like I did last year. I do apologize again for that. I will send that all via email. So
I actually think ACCSC required that, so now we're not ACCSC. We blame ACCSC.
I still
We're
like,
not,
I still like going through it. I still like to be thorough, but I don't want to beat the horse dead. So, so I will send all the syllabi via email, including the filmed meeting, so you can see your bright and shiny faces in person. And if you have any issues going through the fine detailed information, please feel free to email me, call me, text me, whatever. Lastly, what I'm going to speak about today is our Library Resource Center. This has everything the student could ever desire when it comes to studying. You know, they have a private area. You know, if you want to be free of distractions, they have a room, private, nice, quiet. They have places where students can meet, where we hold events. You know, I mean, students can go there and study versus going in the cafeteria and studying. Like I mentioned before, we have all of Mike Holt's literature all there for the students to view. And we have a special TV and a DVD player set up just so students can watch those DVDs at their convenience. Like I said, we are in the process of getting that loaded directly to D2L. It's gonna be a lot more convenient for the students so they can do it at home at late hours. But for the time being, I think it's excellent. They also have a great amount of literature in pretty much every other subject. I also just saw a couple of Harry Potter books over there. That's all good, I think, too. But no, it's a great place. It's fully staffed by knowledgeable people. You know, you can print out anything there. It's the ultimate resource, right? That's why we call it the resource center. Because it's not, a library does it a disservice. It's a resource for the students. Any questions on that?
Are you still running the, I know it's hard to find time sometimes, are you still running those classes where you'll kind of say, we'll be here from, 3 to 4 if you guys want to work on, your hands-on?
Yeah, open labs, yes, thank you, Mike. Appreciate
That's
that.
always awesome.
So, I offer office hours, and now we, in the past about year or so since the pandemic, we've been offering open lab hours. Which means exactly what you said. You're, a little frustrated with the last project from last week. Students perhaps missed a class, need to make up some time. It's a great place to come in and really hone those skills. Or, let's say a student has an issue at home. You know what I mean? Working on the receptacle, can't figure it out. Come on in, let's talk about it, let's figure it out. I also kind of use that to be like, like the shoulder to cry kind of fell. I tell students all the time, you need me here at 8 o'clock on a Sunday, I'll be here. You need to escape your house, trouble, come here. You shoulder cry on, come here. I'm your biggest, ugliest cheerleader for 2 years, and this is your home. And I wholeheartedly mean that. So that's kind of what I do with the open lab hours and my office hours. They are scheduled on Fridays and they are by appointment. So ultimate flexibility there. Thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate it. That concludes the bulk of what we had to really speak about here. This is kind of our time to kind of openly discuss, or Dr. Katie, if you'd like to openly discuss anything. But as far as what we discussed here, is this current? Is this what the students need? Is this what's going to make students successful and highly employable and lead happy and healthy lives? I think so. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm doing all right, so.
Dr. Katie, is there anything you'd like to say before we get into our open discussion period?
Well, just I think going off the discussion about the hands-on. So, and that's why I was asking some of the questions, because I think we all know that's really why students come here. And I think too, what I've seen since working here, so I've been here at the college 14 years, just finished my 3rd as president and CEO, and I think the way that we've evolved the lab experiences, I think is just really important, and just kind of keeping that front and center. Like you talked about, Cullen, about the internship. I think that's important. I think even getting students exposed to industry even faster. I know we've talked a little bit about it too at Fastenal. Just giving students the opportunity even to take a task list and go on site to, a potential employer and do the lab work, there, see different equipment, interact with potential employers. Anything we can do, or any ideas you have for us to sort of enhance that kind of experience for students, because they absolutely love it. It's the lab hours, like you said, nobody mind, the students don't mind being here. And just talking to faculty over the years, I think they all say, if a student's struggling in the theory class, once they get into that lab and they're practicing and they're doing it and it clicks. And that's sort of when, that's sort of the golden ticket right there. And they, you might have someone who maybe doesn't do well on a lot of tests, but you get them in the lab and they probably will make the best technician out there. So just giving students more of those types of opportunities to really shine. Because even myself, I wasn't a test taker, but I could, I could write my way out of anything. And if you let me do that long enough, I would do great. And I feel like our students are the same way with their subjects. So.
No, to kind of piggyback off of that, I forgot to mention, we do have a lot of volunteer and a lot of community activity projects.
That's it, yeah, great point.
A lot. So we have the Veterans Home on Main Ave, which is going to be it's a 2-story basement apartment, 1st floor apartment, and that's going to be inexpensive housing to veterans, which I think is an amazing cause. And we've had a lot of dedicated students, namely Nicole Nye. She probably did about 80% of that 1st floor herself. Incredible electrician. But the students really love it. It's a great cause. Also, we're gonna be getting involved with the Black Screen Project, which might be heading this semester even, not even
Okay.
next semester. But they recently got, given the old PNC Bank on Providence Square. That beautiful structure there is now gonna be theirs. So they're gonna have, you know, like, workshops, they're gonna have art galleries, kitchens, music studios, and we're gonna have a helping hand in all that. So plenty of work, plenty of great experiences. And also in the works, we're gonna be possibly working at City Hall, doing some maintenance work there. So very cool things coming up in the future, in all the interest of getting students out into the real world, seeing all these things that you just can't get in the lab settings. But I think the live lab opportunity is gonna be an amazing thing for Fastenal. Just based on what students take in industrial maintenance and based on what you guys do there, that's a match made in heaven for a live lab opportunity, match made in heaven. So, and I appreciate what you gave me before, we're definitely gonna be talking about that in the future. But sorry to interrupt, I just kinda wanted to
No, it's
piggyback
great,
on that.
yeah. And just there's so much going on at the college. I think you guys know, Richmond Hall came down. We're gonna be building, a new building there, but we're also expanding the part of Woolworth that currently houses HVAC. So I think, do they take classes down there
Yeah,
right
so
now?
currently they take fundamentals of electricity down
Okay.
there, and like you said, the expansion is gonna help out greatly
Yeah,
with that.
so, and then we're also adding on to the Diesel Truck Technology Center, which will be kind of like a whole transportation education center hub. So auto will actually move down from here, down to there, heavy equipment will be there. But we're also running labs for heavy equipment out at 5 Star Equipment in Dunmore, which is something else that's really unique to us that I think students absolutely love. Again, just kind of exposing them to enough where they are like the most skilled troubleshooters when they come out of here. So, and just a couple of new programs I wanted to mention. So we announced civil design recently. That's a new 2-year degree. We also just announced the 2-year welding degree. So now we have continuing ed welding, we have the 1-year welding academic certificate, and now we have 2-year welding fabrication and manufacturing. So that's really exciting. And then coming up, we're gonna be announcing mechatronics. We also announced industrial technology, which is a 1-year
Oh, yeah.
academic certificate. And we're gonna be, if you haven't seen it in the paper, we are partnering with the airport and we're launching an aviation technology program. So that'll sort of round out our transportation division of programs. And all of those labs are gonna be run actually out at the airport. We'll actually have part of our campus at the airport. So again, just, you know, trying to create that really unique experience for students that gets them that hands-on experience and out into industry.
Big things at Johnson College, big things. You know, we're top 10 in the country, I'm not satisfied until we're number 1, you know what I mean? I you know, that's just me though. Top 10 to me just means, you know, we're in 9th place and I can't have that. You know, my students deserve the best, so.
And then, do
Yeah.
they know about industry fast track? Do you have any industry fast track students?
Would you like to speak about that, or would you like me to?
Oh, yeah, we can tag team.
So,
yeah.
I'll hit with some blasé information and she'll fill the cracks. So industry fast track, you know, like we have, now, is this the students from high school you're referring to?
Yeah.
So now it's an amazing opportunity. Instead of students going to a CTC their senior year, now they can come here. They can experience college level classes at a greatly reduced cost. So they can potentially be 19 years old, graduated, college degree. You know what I mean? Only really having to pay heavily out of pocket for 1 year, which the vast majority of our students get financial aid. But it is a beyond amazing opportunity. And it's a lot more, not taking anything away from CTC. But it's a great opportunity. And if you plan on going to CTC, it just makes financial sense and the most sense in the world to come to be the fast track.
Yeah, and it's actually to almost complement CTC, because sometimes, like with CTC, like when you're a student, you have to know basically by 10th grade that that's the track you want to do. And oftentimes you can then, you know, sometimes it doesn't click for students, we all know, like until 11th grade, 12th grade. So it kind of helps capture those students that maybe didn't know until they were a junior or senior, like, hey, I do want to go into a more technical career. You know, it gives them that leg up to take those college classes. I mean, we've had some high school students get their, like, earn their 1-year academic certificate in welding before they even got their high school diploma. So that's awesome.
How cool is that?
I know, it's a great opportunity, and to Colin's point too, they come out again with less debt. They get to all of you that much faster out in industry. So that's just like one way we're trying to, again, enhance that experience and get qualified technicians into the workplace.
Well,
faster.
I wish that was available to me when I was a student. I would have jumped on that in a heartbeat.
I wish I had something like that when I was in.
Yeah, we all would. We all would.
Yep.
Yeah.
CTC was not even offered to me. I tried to go and they told me, no, you should go academic. And look where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents actually wouldn't let me go to CTC because it would hurt my chances of going to college in their eyes. And wouldn't you know? Wouldn't you know? That backfired on them a little bit, didn't it? But yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. Graduated 2011, came back 10 years later to run it. I think it speaks something about me and Mr. Zarnoff. Wholeheartedly love the school, the students, the trade, everything. You know, we're highly passionate, and it's a hell or high water. And we proved ourselves even through the pandemic. When most colleges were closing the doors, we were opening up all these possibilities to go out into industry. We still completed every hour of our labs, and I'm still proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
Still proud of that.
And we graduated everyone pretty much on time.
Yep.
Instead of May, we did it in August. But, I mean, that again is a testament to the faculty and our students. I mean, you know, it's funny. I was talking to other college presidents. Like they were sort of sharing stories about how like students were scared and faculty were scared and everybody wanted to stay home. And I was like sharing like opposite phone calls I was getting from students and faculty. It was almost like, hey, this is what we trained for. Like, put me in, coach. Like,
Yeah.
They wanted to be out there. They weren't scared. They were like, this is the real world experience that you're educating
And the
us
proof
for.
is really in the pudding. Third year of
Absolutely.
record enrollment.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. The writing's on the wall. We're doing something right.
And again, I can't, you know, thank the faculty enough. And again, it's just a testament to the type of, and you're alumni, so you know, it just speaks volumes to who our student is at their core. And it's inspiring to me every day. It's what makes me just so happy to get up and have this job.
Yeah, I'm the jerk at the party that actually loves his job. Like, shut up, Mr. McKenna. You know? But no, you love it, you eat it, you breathe it. You know, Johnson College. But thank you everybody for your thoughts, kind words. Really appreciate it. This is our open kind of discussion segment. Anything we didn't talk about here that you would like to discuss? Something that I missed out on? Things that you'd like to see? I mean, apart from the data aspect of it. Is there anything that we're not touching on here?
Colin, maybe you just want to share how retention is overall, because I know you had a really big class last year. You have another big class this year.
I do kind of have that set up for the second meeting,
Okay.
but I have no problem talking about it.
That's okay.
But yeah, I kind of set them up
That's
to.
fine.
I split it right down the middle, you know, I just to not keep it going too long. But no, we are to speak about it, our retention's amazing. Our graduation rate is great. Travis really grooms them. So we only had one senior drop out, and it was due to medical issues. But you know, great retention, great job placement. I would like to see a bit more diversity, both in race and gender. You know, we had 2 female students. Unfortunately, the IBEW stole one of her off of us. But I mean, she's a rock star of an electrician, Leslie. She's going to do great. She's going to go very far in life. I'm very happy, very proud of her. But you know, that's something that I feel like we're always going to kind of struggle with a little bit. You know what I mean? It's a male dominant trade, and I think people get that stuck in their head for whatever reason. But slowly but surely, we're getting a little better. But I think that's a more, and you know, Pennsylvania's kind of 10 years behind everybody else in the country, so without question, we will catch up. But if I could like to see a little more, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'm actually giving a presentation at a chamber luncheon next month about that topic specifically, about women, like not just in the trades, just in the workforce in general, because even through the pandemic, it's like mostly women that are opting out of the workforce, just in general. So not just the trade. So now here we are, even before the pandemic, all of your industries like are desperate for people. And now through the pandemic, we have this whole group of potentially qualified individuals opting out of the workforce altogether, so that puts us at even more of a deficit when it comes to producing a qualified workforce. So I'm gonna hopefully beat that drum.
Stir the masses.
Yeah, and I did a couple of those like women in STEM and trades before the pandemic, but now the more like we can be out there talking about that, the better, because it's just, it's not good for anybody.
Yeah, but you want, there's like a lot of preconceived notions. You want
Yeah.
you want to dispel those myths and show people how freaking great this trade is.
Yeah, and actually Nicole's gonna attend the
Yeah,
luncheon,
yeah.
so I think it'll be great too, that, I can sort of kind of point to a success
Yeah.
story
And what a great electrician she already is,
Yeah.
and she already will turn out to be.
yeah.
So I'm very excited. Anything else? Anything you'd like to discuss? How terrible the Steelers are doing this season?
Oh, come on.
We'll wait till after. We'll wait till we turn the camera off before we start talking about that. But the Cowboys are doing great.
Yes.
Dolphins aren't. Dolphins just are doing
They never
horrible.
do good though. Admit it.
Just, you leave that alone now.
Okay. All right, guys. Do I have a motion to conclude the meeting?
Yes.
Does anybody second?
Second.
Can't second. Sorry. One of you guys have to second. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your service as PAC members too. I know you're giving of your time and your talent, and really appreciate it. We do, as Colin mentioned, we do take everything everyone says and try to make the program even better.
Yeah. Year by year, semester by semester, a little bit better. I mean, if we can just kind of like think back to even 3 years ago, how much has this department grown in 3 years? It's freaking incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It is incredible. And I'm kind of excited to see what the next 3 years hold. I still haven't lost any of my motivation. So I'm ready to go for another 3.
Or
But
just 3, I'm just kidding.
I meant 30. So, but everybody at home, thank you very much for attending, and you'll be getting this email shortly.